This is one of my favorite small apartments I have ever built in The Sims 4, and I thought it would be cool to see if we could recreate it in Paralives. So this is an apartment for an artist. It is only one bedroom, one bathroom. It has a couple of workspaces or like office studio spaces. It is open concept, it has a closet. I built this in the smallest apartment in the whole game. It is Pinecrest Apartments number 402, and I used a very beautiful shade of green as an inspiration for this. Especially since in Paralives we have a color wheel, I thought that maybe we could get something really close to this. So what I did was that I got the customizable rug and I imported the top-down view from this apartment. And I decided that I would take the square, like a square in Paralives, I would make it the same as a square in The Sims. So that's how I sized this build, and I also decided to make it like a whole apartment building. It is not exactly like the one in The Sims because that one is a lot bigger than this lot. There's actually a couple studio apartments because I decided that I would also only have this be like 2 stories tall. And I actually really liked the way that this apartment building came out. I didn't use the Sims 4 version as inspiration for the exterior because this building looks a lot better once it is like renovated. And I built this in the building before it is renovated. So I tried to copy those doors and windows. And also since when I built this, we were already able to change our windows, but not the ones on the front of the building. I used windows from Lovestruck. I believe this was right when Lovestruck came out, so there's lots of that beautiful like sage green on the back, and I used a lot of items from there. It's mainly, I would say, Lovestruck and Dream Home Decorator, and I used the paneling from the Book Nook kit, which I couldn't really find a similar thing in Paralives, so I ended up using like a bulkier paneling, which I don't think is too like accurate. Also, I had this sort of wallpaper mural that has these really big, beautiful roses behind the mirror on the entryway, and I also had a very different mirror. I decided to go with the wavy one. I didn't actually end up using a flower wallpaper, even if there are some similar wallpapers in Paralives, because I felt like this one with the like blobs made more sense. I felt it was closer to the shapes and the color blocks of that other one, and I made this mirror into a wooden mirror. It is originally like a textile. That's the texture that it has. And I also decided to make a custom closet. The one that I had used was from Lovestruck, so it has only one door instead of like a double door. And here I did choose to use a double door, but it is only as wide as a normal door. So that's a little bit different, but I think that it looks a lot better actually when I used that closet from Lovestruck. I mean, I didn't choose it because I liked the way that it looked, I chose it because it was new. But yeah, we don't have a desk with like a shelf above it, so I just got a desk and a shelf. And I tried to get some similar clutter. I did manage to get a flower with a yellow vase and like blue flowers. And also I originally had like that hand model for drawing, and we don't have such a thing, so I got this statue of a couple of hands. And there was also a neon sign with some writing on the wall, so I got this sign that says home and I placed it on top of that shelf, and I also got a pile of books. So that was pretty accurate, I thought. I also got this dresser next to the door, which I managed to get the colors pretty similar to the ones in the original apartment. And also I raised up this plant so that the feet were hidden. And I think that it looks really nice. Also, I got a couple of these boxes in a few places because I was using the boxes from Dream Home Decorator. And I also had this blue llama statue. It's like a wooden thing. And I got this bear instead, so it's still an animal. And since I was using these 2 bookcases that are basically the same thing, I mean, you can get the same bookcase and just clutter it yourself, but I just didn't feel like doing that, so I covered some of the piles of books and stuff with this like pile of boxes and added different clutter to each thing. Also, I had this lamp from Lovestruck, and so I got like a mushroom lamp in a similar shade, and I also got some some speakers and some books. Again, just trying to get similar clutter. And then I was very happy that I could get like a mid-century modern TV stand and also get pretty similar colors and everything. Although I had used a frame TV in that other apartment, so this one just has a boring flat screen TV, which I think was one of the things that made this apartment so charming to me. How everything was so, I don't know, it's I had like a couple big art pieces and all of these green colors, so like this big black rectangle, it doesn't look great, and I actually tried to recreate the tray that I had in that other one. It's interesting how you can get like the tray and change its color and get a pile of books, add some candles and the plant as well, and basically the same color. It's really cool, but it looks very different because of how, like, on one hand, of course, these items are all different, but also I am so used to that other tray that it feels a little weird seeing it like this. That wasn't like the most complicated thing to copy in here. Like, for example, the chair that I had next to that TV stand, it had like a very high back, and here I wasn't able to get that. Also, there's no thermostat, so I just got like a light switch. And also there's no bookends, so I just got a couple of vases and I made them pink so that they would be similar to those heart bookends. I actually found this decoration. It's a heart, and I don't really like the way that it looks, but I thought that as a nod to the original apartment, it would be a good idea to get it here. But I think that this rock is actually pretty similar to the one that I had in the original apartment, and I am convinced that the squares, like the grid, is larger in Paralives. I don't know if The Sims has like yards and this one has meters or what is going on, but I got like a 4-seater couch instead of a 3-seater one. And I got a couple of poofs, like one just so that it would look like it has a longer, like it is part of the couch and it has a similar shape, like an L shape. But I also got another one in green so that it would look similar to the pet bed that the original had. And I got a bowl next to it. I know that there are some pet bowls in Paralives, but I don't know where to find them. So I just added this thing. Hopefully when I upload this apartment to the workshop, I will have figured that out, because it's kind of a weird thing to have. But I got a similar enough painting, which I was very happy about. And also in the kitchen, I thought that I could get something very similar with the cabinets. Of course, there's limitations and the colors are kind of different to copy, like the beige, gray, white sort of color that these have is very hard to achieve in Paralives. I think that it is because of how the light is warmer in this game. So I just did my best and I tried to get a similar wood texture and in that way make it closer to the one in The Sims. I also had to make the stove a bit smaller. The original apartment had a stovetop and the oven separate, so here that just wasn't possible, but I was able to make it so that the stove wasn't higher than the counters, because that just looked weird to me. And I got very similar upper heads. Of course, since you can scale them, I was able to get them exactly the size that I wanted. And then I got these 2 shelves, which I had originally used, the ones from Home Chef Hustle, so it was pretty easy to get something similar. Of course, there's no, like, those have like some lights underneath them, but I got some plates and a trio of mugs, which is something that you might recognize. And then I got some similar like decorations on the top shelf. I am a very short person, so I always think that a shelf that is so high up is only for decorations. Like I would never reach anything that I put there. So that's what I decided to do. And then on the island, I got some really cute stools. These aren't functional at the moment because of early access, but they are so cute, and I am really excited about the fact that we have them, and I really can't wait for them to actually be functional. But I really liked adding them here, and then I just added some similar clutter. I got a sponge, a plant, and a drying rack for dishes. And then I tried to get a similar, like, sort of longer cabinet to the one that was in the original. So I got some more cabinets and these square shelves. And then I got similar clutter, like just some books and containers. I also thought that it would be cool to get like a small notebook so that there could be some recipes in there or notes. And then I got a fruit bowl, which I think that I originally had a tortilla warmer in here. So I figured that this was close enough, and I got a single candlestick, which was pretty close to that one. And I also got a vase with flowers, which is a lot bigger than the one in the original build, but I think that it filled the space pretty nicely, especially since originally we had that stovetop. And so these counters were looking kind of blank. But anyway, then we moved into this art space, which I do realize has no windows, and that is like far from ideal. But when I built this, I just had no idea of what else could be done with this space. I did like that I was able to add a very similar archway, and that there is a lot of art clutter, and I didn't have like a similar board for all of these shelves. So I kind of made my own. I just got this big like wood thing, and I couldn't scale it down, so I ended up making the shelves a bit wider. But I did manage to add some similar clutter, like that cup of paintbrushes, the canvases, and I also had these, I forget what it's called, but like the big paper towels that you use in kitchens. I had also added that to the Sims version, because those can be quite useful. And then I got a similar bed. I had used the bed from Dream Home Decorator, but I had given it like a sort of wooden headboard. So this bed was perfect for that. I got a similar wood texture, and I gave the sheets and the covers also a similar shade and material. It also had this blanket draped over it, which was quite similar to the one in The Sims. And then for the bedside tables, I didn't have any that were close enough to the ones from The Sims, so I just used these modern boxy ones. And since in one of those I just had 3 candles, I did the same here and made them pink. And then on the other one, I got the same mushroom lamp, and then I recreated that like book nook tray with, an open book. And it had a mug that looks like it's some sort of marbled ceramic. So I got this customizable one, and I found a picture that looked pretty similar to that effect. And then it was kind of hard for me to find a mirror that looked similar enough. So I got this one since it also had like a bar and round shapes. And making it gold was kind of hard, just finding that a similar enough color, like something that would actually read as gold with these textures and the color wheel. But I got there in the end, and then I added a wardrobe, which I tried to give it a very similar color, and also the shoe rack. I really hope that we get more shoes, because at the moment it is kind of hard to fill it in. Then on the other side I got the same paneling, and also I think that this chair looks similar to the one that I had, and this dresser especially looks pretty close to that one, and the tapestry. It even came in a very similar color, just without having to use the color wheel. And here I had a yellow speaker, very different to this one in style, but it at least has a similar color. And I believe that in The Sims I also had used a taller plant and just inserted it so that it looked like it had a shorter pot. So I did the same in here, and I also added, similar clutter, but also since I had a jewelry box, here I just added a box and a smaller mirror on top of that. I also got this rug with the fringe. I really like it, and it actually has a pattern, but if you make all of the items or like the elements of that pattern the same color, you can actually make it look like it is completely flat. So I got sort of pink color, and I thought that was pretty successful. And then in the bathroom I managed to get a smaller bath mat that looks like it has the same exact pattern as the one in The Sims, but the tiles weren't so close. But I did manage to get some with like green and white and a flower sort of pattern, so I figured it was close enough. And then I got some towels, which I am very glad that we finally have wall-mounted towels in this game. And so it was pretty easy to copy that. And I also got a trash can in there, which was also a similar style, although it can only be made of metal. which I didn't really love, but I got a very similar shower, and the shower clutter on that shelf is also like, it gives the same feel, I think. And then I got this floating sink, which I managed to make it look a bit more similar to that other one because I got some white boxes that I scaled with the advanced transform tool. And since in that other one I had the tray from Lovestruck, I got this little oval tray and I just added some like lotions or creams, and then these are those boxes, which I think look alright, and this should still be functional. Pretty much everything stays functional in Paralives. Like, paras are very smart and able to move in very small spaces. And I got this like arched mirror, which was close enough to the one that I had used originally. And since we don't have a sandbox for cats, I tried making my own. At first I had a tray, but then I remembered that we have like an actual like sandbox for children, and I scaled it down so that it fit in there. Then I just added some clothes that would be hanging up in that closet. And for the outside I used these half walls because that was pretty similar to this apartment building in The Sims. And I thought that it would be nice if there was like a platform on the ground floor. And then of course I had to add stairs, which the original building doesn't have because that one has an elevator. It also has like 4 or 5 stories, I can't remember, but of course I wasn't going to make it that high in Paralives. Like, after a certain height, it is very hard in this game to move the camera without it completely losing its place. But I thought that these stairs looked quite decent. In the end I painted them in like a concrete shade that I felt really blended into the rest of the walls and the platforms that I had used. And if you're wondering how you can make some stairs that actually like change direction, this is how you can do it. It's a little bit of a hassle. It is not exactly straightforward, but it is possible and it is pretty functional. So for now, this is how you might have to do it. I also added some columns, which I thought gave it a more interesting detail. And upstairs on the rooftop terrace, I also added a laundry room, which I thought was a nice thing for this apartment to have. And then I thought that I would paint some of these walls with a stone texture. And I think that really helped because it wasn't looking so flat that way. I also made like a path so that the dumpster was sort of accessible. It is kind of tight with the fences from the neighbors, but it's just the back of the lot, and at the moment, at least, dumpsters aren't functional. And in Eco Lifestyle there's a dumpster, so I thought that it was nice for like a reference. But yeah, I have painted that like gravel or concrete path. I'm not really sure what it is. And I also added windows everywhere. I got a smaller tree, or well, it's not small, it is pretty tall, but it is less wide. And I was pretty impressed that you can actually change the color of the top and the bottom of the tree separately. So you can have different colored leaves. And then in the front, I thought that it would be nice to have a big flower box. And I added a couple of different flowers to it. I mirrored some of them, I kind of turned them. I believe I got some of them in a different shade. And then upstairs, we are now working on that small laundry room. It has, I believe, 3 dryers and 3 washers. And I also thought that it would be nice to add a bunch of cabinets and also laundry baskets. I also found a way to make some space for clothes to hang. And then I hid those inside the wall, the machines, and another cabinet. And I also got 2 of these sinks so that it looked like there was somewhere to wash clothes by hand. Anyway, thank you so very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this. The original apartment is on the gallery. I will have it linked down in the description, or you can also find it by searching my ID, that's Veranio. And also when I am done with this apartment building, I will also have it on the Steam Workshop. So stay tuned for those other videos and also for the Steam Workshop link. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye!